Welcome to Storybreakers, a show where we discuss the history of sign language using only our hands.
Come on, do the real one, please.
What? No, like sign language is important.
Yeah, but it's not visual, it's audio.
God damn it. Okay, fine. Welcome to Storybreakers, a show where we come up with a brand new film idea every single episode, and if you like it, it's yours. I'm your host, Chris Brennan, and here is my co-host, Mr. Stephen Ryan.
Hello, guys.
Today we have a very special guest, writer and actress, Ms. Gemma Creagh.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
How are you keeping?
Excellent.
Sweet. So what have you been up to these days?
It was just Christmas, and now it's pretty much the end of January, which is still an extension of Christmas in my eyes.
Right.
And I feel like I'm not going to get going until Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
the Irish start date.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, the Irish January 1st.
Look at that, it's like the biggest bank holiday I've ever heard of. Okay, so you ready to break a story today, huh?
I'm intrigued.
Alright, I'd say before that, we've got some correspondence again.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
People on Twitter.
Okay, a couple episodes ago I asked about like films that didn't have sequels, like standalone films that didn't have sequels that might deserve some. So at Film Reverie said The Truman Show, and he says he always wanted to know what would happen when he walked out that door. It's a really good point.
That's intriguing.
Like, you have this character who's basically the ultimate fish out of water, so you can even see him being in the superstar out there, and nothing is going so easy for him because his life was predetermined in the little show. Like, there's so much space for that.
But is that not like flying first class and then going back to economy? Like, wouldn't life be so difficult after that?
Well, yeah, that's why I think the struggle he could be, like, he actually wants to go back in the show. Maybe he's, like, pitching new shows, like, you know.
I don't want to pay these bills.
Yeah.
That's how reality TV was born.
Yeah.
That is so true.
And then Dean at Sci-Fi Film Pod actually said, why break with tradition? And he wants to do Moon. He thinks Moon deserves a sequel.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. I think there's some room there.
An
Definitely.
adult one, Blue Moon.
And then at Zombie Hangout says Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So many possibilities. Have you seen that?
No.
Have you seen Tucker and
I
Dale
have
versus Evil?
indeed. That is a franchise just ripe for sequels.
I can't believe they didn't go further.
Yeah.
Like, you can have anything after that. You have zombies, vampires. It's these two hillbillies who accidentally look like the murdering monsters in a horror film because these youths think they're killing people, but the hillbillies think these kids are killing themselves in front of them. And it's like a satire of the horror genre. But you can just take that in all the subgenres of horror. So I think that's a really good idea. Okay, and then another one we also asked, like, we had the episode on Face Off, our Face Off reboot. And so we said that's our version, which you can find out on the earlier episode. And so other people had different ideas for who they would actually cast as the leads.
No, I love this. I'm so jealous that some people brought up some amazing ones.
Yeah, at Brian O'Neill, at Bingo O'Brieno, says that he would put Brad Pitt and Edward Norton together for an on-screen
How
reunion.
do you think of Edward Norton? That's
a
amazing.
little Fight Club face-off. And then Movie Madness podcast would put Sam Rockwell and Tom Hardy facing off with each other.
That's also great.
I think that's a hard sell.
But what about Sam
like-
Rockwell and Edward Norton? Even blend the two together. That would be awesome.
Well, you had John Travolta dancing. So, like, you got Sam Rockwell, he can fulfill the dancing expectations of the face-off crowd. And then Dean at Sci-Fi Film Pod kind of jumped in again, saying Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think they'd have to pay me to watch that.
No, I would watch it if it was like the fourth sequel.
Yeah.
And then Blockbusters said Tom Hiddleston versus Hugh Jackman.
That's not bad.
That sounds pretty good. And our old buddy Connor Dowling at Gabe Lewis 23 says Chris Evans versus Jason Clarke.
Okay, well, he's after qualifying himself for another episode, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, thanks for the correspondence, and keep it coming. We'd love to see what you guys think of the reboots and the originals.
Yeah, and especially when you keep on bringing up better ideas than us. I suppose that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Okay, so today we're going to be doing an original idea. And I saw on Twitter somebody said, I can't remember who, but somebody was saying that we should do like a horror spoof.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure the spoof idea. We haven't even went to horror yet, so...
I don't know, I think for horror spoof you really have to be copying something. Like as a... You know, like you need to be kind of looking at Paranormal Activity. Hey, we're going to take the piss out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I love horror though. We haven't done horror. We've done sci-fi. We've done noir and stuff like that.
Yeah,
horror
I think
is very different.
Gemma, you want to do some horror?
Why not?
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Out of my comfort zone.
Okay,
Well, this is the best thing, I suppose, isn't it? You always bring up the best stuff when you're out of your comfort zone. I know that's for me anyway. The last couple of episodes.
yeah. So the last time we did not the last time, we did an original and it was noir, but then we kind of turned into a hybrid when it became sci-fi noir. So should we go straight horror or should we do one of those hybrids again?
I think hybrid.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's immediately kind of more interesting to just mash two genres together and then play with the tropes, right?
It is, and especially when it's something that you haven't seen before, it's a lot easier to do, I suppose. For us as well, I suppose.
Cool. So we just have to figure out what the other genre is. It's horror and...
Oh, can we just go completely left field with it?
Okay, go.
Can we go western?
Horror western.
Horror western.
I like it.
Have we ever seen that before?
I don't think I have seen that.
I've seen some horrible westerns, but I've never seen a horror western.
Okay.
Sci-fi western?
Yeah, cowboys and aliens, right?
That's it. And then people talking about zombie western, I suppose.
Yeah.
Zombie versus cowboys, but I don't know. I think a horror movie would be good.
So we're basically saying it's back in the Wild West, right? It's
Back
not
in
like
the day.
That's not like Chuck Norris in Texas or anything like that, right?
No, with Don Cheadle, is it? Or who was with him?
I forget.
I forget who it was. But yeah,
Okay.
no, let's go. Billy the Kid era.
So we're doing a horror western.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so by the way, like we mentioned this in the past few episodes as well. Like the first couple of episodes we did, we just left women characters out of it completely. So we really want to like make sure that we kind of give them some stuff to do because.
Is that why I'm invited?
No. Even our last Rocket Robin Hood, we were like we made sure that Maid Marian wasn't just there to be kidnapped and saved, like. Because that just happens so much in things. It's usually a nurse looking up at some creature. And then her only mission is like save a child randomly when she's off somewhere else,
Yeah.
So maybe
So Gemma can shoot us down here with this, okay? Well, what if we said that to get rid of all of the stereotypes of male and female characters in movies, let's just get rid of the men completely and just do a full-on female cast.
Intriguing. Okay.
How do you feel about that?
I adore this. I think it would be a hard pitch for certain types of producers, but I'm on for this.
So how you get rid of the guys?
Yeah.
They form a posse, right?
Yeah, just get them out of town.
Yeah, they get in posses, right?
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. Well, like Larry David said, like it's hard to form a posse with the answering machine now because you just leave a message going, I missed you. Sorry, you're that posse. I just missed you. Yeah. So back then they'd form a posse. I guess all the women would stay back, right?
Yeah, well, what we can do is, we can set up whatever horror is going to be about. We can basically give a reason at the very start for all the men leaving. It could be like some people were murdered or something like that, or like all the animals have been slaughtered and all the men are out on a trail. They think
kind of cattle thing where they just have to go away for like a certain amount of seasons or like a chunk of the season. They just go off and they're like, we'll be back in 3 months. Waiting for dinner, better be waiting.
Little missy.
That's actually pretty good because initially I was thinking like they're chasing a renegade of some type, but that could also happen as well actually, just to clear out all the guys. Because when that happens, they just head off for a while because we want to get them out of there for a while, right? Like we don't want to just give the girls like a couple of hours,
Yeah,
I'd say as well there probably is a natural amount of men that might stay behind. Maybe someone who was infirmed back in the day.
Okay.
Who wasn't exactly wheelchair access.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's cool with me.
Just killed them straight away.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so the way I'm seeing this now is that we start off. It's a little Western community, and what I love about these hybrids is you start it as a Western.
Yeah.
So we would just be in a regular Western for like the first 10 minutes or so, establish the characters, and then kind of hint that a lot of the cowboys are heading off for the season trip.
Yeah.
Like they're taking the cattle across Red River and all that stuff, So then you've cleared out a lot of them. So you still have a few of the guys still left. So maybe you have that kind of outlaw who just came to town, did something nasty, which then you also get some kind of action-y thing quite early then, So
we go kind of slasher style horror here, or are we going to go ghosty?
Well, yeah, that's we'll get to that, but I'm just trying to get the guys out of the place first. So basically, we're trying to get with that mechanism of the cattle and the outlaw, you've basically cleared the majority of the manly men out.
I think a good arc might be if you had an outlaw in there that was maybe in the intro quite threatening, but maybe might get some kind of murderous comeuppance a little bit later on.
Okay.
And that might be a good thing if you introduce them. So when the kind of like the good cattle folk their husbands leave and everything like that, then he kind of comes in because he knows these women are vulnerable. You know, maybe they're a little bit intimidated at first, but then, you know, they're like, well,
and how wrong is he going to be?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that, because then you automatically have an antagonist in human form. I guess you were asking earlier what type of horror. Like a slasher, let's not go with. It's too easy. Like you just have a guy sneaking into town. We chased a guy out of town, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess you want to go supernatural with this. I think we're in the West and we're doing a Western horror. Like, let's just really go for it. So we can go through a couple of different versions. We can do the ghosts, we can do the demons, or we can do like vampires, zombies, or like what would you kind of be interested in?
Well, it's America. What about they upset some kind of, although you don't want to kind of cast these as the bad guys, but what about if there was some kind of like Indian burial ground type scenario?
Goddamn
but
Indians.
you can't actually paint those people as the bad guys. But what if you got somebody in to help and go like, oh my god, you did not offend those later
That's a really good idea. But
and then
also,
they have to band together because they're natural enemies. Yeah.
That's a really good idea. So yeah, I understand the point of they can't be the villain, but also these kind of ghosts, they can, I guess, like, so it'd be like an Indian burial ground, so some kind of a demon or a ghost or something like that. But that would be the villain. But as you said, you just bring a bit of that community in to be like, you did what? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
We told you specifically not to do that.
When we said this was our land, this is what we were talking about, okay? We're not being greedy here.
So damn white people, you fuck up everything. Oops, am I allowed to swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've been swearing less and less as it goes by, but that first episode I was a sailor at Christmas.
Yeah. Like he's posh now compared to what it was as Santa Begins.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So with that idea, we can just backtrack that slightly, and before the guys leave, they upset that burial ground or whatever. Yeah. And this is what we've done before, which we don't get into the specifics of that. Like when Joss Whedon does Avengers and this kind of stuff, when he comes to like a very scientific thing, he just says sciencey, and then moves on, because it's like that can be handled later on. We'll be here for an hour trying to figure out the burial site and what book they opened. Well, like,
there's
really,
a very funny scene, I think, that involves a man drinking too much and peeing on a grave.
Nice.
I just see that though. I think that's hilarious.
That's really good.
It's probably
that's
because we're in
amazing.
Temple Bar.
Because it's Gemma, it sounds classy. If we had a cup with that, it would have been like, come on guys, seriously.
Yeah. So that's cool. So I'd say before the guys leave, and I like the fact that the guys who leave are the ones that upset it. So like the women in the town or the people in the town didn't even do it. They're just now the victims of going, what the hell is going on?
Simple. The women have to mop up after them. So what if it's
like he's pissing in the graveyard?
What if it's a greedy prospector or something like that? He's going out on the trail, and he's been forced to go out onto the trail tomorrow for the posse. But he has like a load of gold in his house, so he decides, I'm going to bury this and no one can touch it. Yeah. So he goes and he buries it in a certain area, which just happens to be an Indian burial ground of sorts. Okay. It's sciencey, and that's how it all gets disturbed. Then they go off, and it's just literally because of a man's greed. This all's after kicking off.
Yeah, because I can even see that point where like the last herd of men and cattle are like all leaving, and it's like a really wide shot, but it's really wide and it's up by that burial ground, and you see things shift or something subtly moves or shows the audience that it's been upset,
Tumbleweed.
Actually,
the tumbleweed gets sucked into the ground.
I really like the idea of that, because it could be ill-gotten gain. So he's like a real Joe So. Maybe he's like murdered or done something really bad to get this gold. So when he puts it into this like highly spiritual place, he really upsets something bad by bringing something so negative there. So then, like he's kind of like maybe paying heeds to some kind of awful demon that then is spurred on by that.
That's great. Yeah. This is another thing that I love about horrors is if they say ghost to me, if I was watching Paranormal Activity and they said it's a ghost, it's like, okay, it's a ghost. Yeah. But when they said demon in it was like, oh shit, it's a demon. That's obviously worse. Like, it's like malevolent is such a more fearsome word than evil.
It's like the uncle of a ghost, isn't it? You're like, oh no, the ghost is a child, but you don't want his uncle showing up and being serious. No, I like that. I think the demon's a really good one. And I agree, like the horror films I actually enjoy the most are probably exorcisms and demons. I know they're getting played out a lot anymore, but they still give me that chill, like there's just...
I'm not afraid to say I hide under my jacket watching most, and I'm like, I'm not afraid to say that.
Okay, cool. So I think now we have, it's going to be this prospectors upset the burial ground, and we're going to basically unleash a demon. So you think it's like one demon? I think maybe one, or is it many?
I love the thing where the demon and like the creature, this benevolent force infects another person, so you're not sure like who's your friend.
Oh, the thing.
Who's not your friend? Who is this alien thing?
That's
and
amazing.
I kind of think like if there was an element of that, it always adds this thing of tension because. Like, you know, like these are women, they're highly social, they're sitting there, they're chatting, and you know, you bring in this element of like who do you trust to it as well on top of that, and then I
like that.
Down with it.
Yeah, because there's something really nasty about taking over a body, you know, like, and that's what we always fear when we watch these horrors, because it's you're not yourself anymore, and that's a really horrible idea that you don't even know that you're the one causing these actions. So I like that. But I think now we actually have to look into the women and the characters and see like who we're gonna follow, you know? Like we do have a big group of people, but I would be, and we can change it if we want, but I would definitely recommend we have one protagonist instead of like multi-character. These things always seem to work better when you have somebody who's, I guess, at the start doesn't look strong, but becomes the leader through
She's the sit up as bitch in town.
Yeah, like she's strong-willed. And I think that's really cool in that Western dynamic that a woman actually would be taking that position, you know? So, I mean, let's just talk about her. Actually, we should cast that. Normally we end up trying to figure out, like, actors to play these characters, so...
It's easier for us all to visualise things, I suppose, and I'm terrible with names of new characters, so I always forget them, so it's easy for me to remember an actress's name.
So I would say there's two kind of routes that I would, if I was doing it, recommend to go down, where you have the kind of like, if they're going to be weak characters starting off, maybe it is the prostitute, because there is that element of, you know, like that is one of the Wild West tropes where like when those things started out with all those villages, there were just men, and then they had prostitutes, Deadwood. That was a huge part of it, who kind of comes into her own. And then there's also that kind of like the kind of victim style character where, you know, an abused husband or something like that, like her husband is abusive, where she kind of comes into her own, and then he comes back and she'd be like, well, I've just faced down a demon, you're not the worst person ever, where she grows in that. Or you have somebody who is the village outcast is another potential. I don't know, throwing it out.
I like the wife personally. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I think just because of the arc that we're going, that a strong-willed person who isn't strong to begin, and like there's definitely an arc and a change there, and I love the idea that the husband comes back, and like we get to the end, because a lot of times we jump to the end anyway because we have to figure out where we're going, but like at the end where it's all done and like people are just gone, like they're dead, they're gone, they're missing, and she's probably covered in some kind of blood or kind of ooze or something, and he comes back to town like, what in Sam hell is going on here, you know?
Did you not clean this place up at all?
And then maybe she just smacks him in the face, you know? Like, so I like that kind of character, but those other two, I think they could be secondary characters, like I love that. I didn't even think of the whole like brothel kind of element to it, because hey, what's she gonna do if all the guys are out of town? Okay, cool. So we're talking about like a woman who is a wife who's kind of abused and kind of subjected, but what kind of actress are we looking at here? Maybe like around 30s or so?
In and around that, I think, yeah.
A good horror actress. I don't know why I keep going to this, but I could picture like Anne Hathaway, but I haven't seen her kind of in a huge amount of horrors.
But she does have that great moment in Dark Knight Rises where she pretends to be scared. Have you seen Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Where like the cops show up and she hides under a table and screams. I'm cool with that anyway. I like Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, let's go Anne Hathaway.
Okay, cool.
And she's believable that she can kick ass as well.
Yes.
Alright, cool. That's a really good one. I never would have thought of that.
Sweet. Alright, we're on the
I went straight for like Olivia Wilde was this, Cowboys and Aliens. I was like, I'm going for one person.
Sharon Stone, the Quick and the Dead, come on!
Okay, so now we have all the guys gone. So we're basically following the horror tropes of like it starts off slowly, you know, like there's little things, you know, little things, and following your possession thing. Maybe our next goal is to get somebody possessed or somebody taken over. But see, for me, I kind of like the idea that demon, even though we're breaking rules or whatever, like I like the idea that someone can be taken over, but I still like the idea that there's a demon floating around, you know.
Yeah.
So with the thing, it was like that person is the monster now.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like. That's cool, but I still want that kind of rattling of the house and things are happening around them, you know?
So what if then we had a scenario where that night after the guys all leave the town, there's a load of commotion. There's all the horses and the cattle and all are all like upset. You know, there's a bit of like they're not comfortable. You know, you hear the howling and whatever. But what if our very first like kind of scary moment and it comes from one of the strongest males that are left in the town in his house, and he's the one who gets possessed.
Oh, that's really good.
So therefore, then he's the guy in town, and he's just acting like an asshole now. He's a demon.
Yeah. Sheriff.
Because
why would the sheriff leave, right? Don't they have sheriffs?
Or deputy.
Yeah.
It'd have to be
deputy,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of the cops, like he's the guy. He's the law. He's the law.
Yeah.
He enforces the law, and this is the guy that gets taken over. Because then immediately, law's out of the question. So you can't be like, well, wouldn't they just get the sheriff or the deputy to shoot something? Like, that's a great idea.
So then the women are kind of thinking along the lines of, like, he thinks he's like, cause he's the big cheese, because he's the only man left in town. He can't boss us around. Like, what's his problem? You know, so they're not gonna.
You can see him acting weird. Like he goes to the brothel, and they're like, "What's he doing going to the brothel?" You know, like.
And maybe he was a really weak character up to this point, and suddenly he has his shit together, and he's like able to kind of like be aware of things, and like maybe everybody up until this point has always been like, well, it's just a sheriff. Really, we know, like, you know, the corrupt politicians are the people that run this town, and he just does what they say.
Right.
And like now, all of a sudden, like he's kind of cracking the whip because maybe he's paving the way for this big thing to happen, and like maybe it's coming up to a certain time or something like this, and like the lunar cycle or something where, you know, things are much more likely to come into effect, and he's trying to like ensure this happens.
It reminds me of like Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters. You know, like what's the guy, Bowser or something?
Zool, was it?
Yeah, like he's like bringing this demonic creature in, and he's like the gatekeeper or whatever, you know, the keymaster or something. Yeah, that's funny.
Dogs.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, I like that. So we're kind of, and I think at the same time you have those moments where, say, Anne Hathaway's at the house and odd things are happening in the area, because I like that thing that the community is just kind of not right. Like some kind of like metaphorical dark cloud is over the entire community, and it's just shifting things in order to get what they want, you know? And part of that shifting is by having like that leader, that presence in the community actually possessed and herding everybody together. Like that could be it. Like that might actually be like trying to put them all into like one barn or one place, you know. That's like their goal, is to put them all together so it's like just chaos, like they just take over everybody at once or slaughter everybody at once.
An interesting thing would be the point where, and it would be kind of like a strange metaphor, where if you were to get all the characters and like what you have to do is for like just say your demon to rise, you have to get them by their own choice, you know, like everyone has an element of free will. So God is like, you have free will. So obviously this kind of creepy demon is like, you have free will to murder one of their own, an innocent. So maybe his job is to facilitate that, and once that happened, the kind of like the demon has full reign.
He's like Renfield for Dracula kind of thing. Is like his little bitten monkey, like it's his prank monkey from The Simpsons.
I saw everything. Yeah, I really like that. I think that's a great idea, because that's where I think it gets really good with horror, is when you get to those points that it's not just there's a ghost, blah. It's that choice. It's the human emotions, the human element of the story that happens. Like that's really good. I think we definitely keep that. But then you have the sheriff taking over. So does the sheriff then convince somebody to kill somebody, or does the sheriff kill somebody?
I wonder if his job is to incite things. So basically you have all these different tropes, all these different people. So his job is to kind of manipulate the whole thing. And like the whole time all this creepy shit is happening. Like, you know, things move, people can feel the tension rising. And as the tension in the town rises, as these women start to like become like maybe suspicious of each other because maybe he reveals truths or something like that they don't know, or maybe he convinces somebody of something that isn't true, that as tension rises the negative energy builds, and then this demon becomes more powerful, and he, like, his ultimate goal is to get them to kill like a pure innocent. So what if then
like to start all that off, the first act of crime that basically the sheriff commits is someone does something in the say they're all in the bar or something, in the saloon, and someone does something innocent, like, you know, cheats on a little game of poker or something that they're having, you know, and he just kills him. And it's like, what did you kill him for? It's like he was breaking the law. It's like, or something ridiculous.
But that idea is really good, but following the inciting thing, maybe he exposes the cheater, and then that incites that riot or whatever. See, if he's going to incite other people to harm people, then he would, instead of kill him, he'd be like, this man's cheating, and like he's got that little robotic claw thing coming out of the sleeve, you know, full of cards, you know,
Little
like,
aces.
Yeah.
because I think that'd be really cool if he's manipulating people. I like that because it just feels like there's more to that.
The Stephen King book where, you know, it's like the devil opens his shop and he gives everyone the stuff that he wants, and then like they all kind of slightly become corrupted.
Is that which Stephen
Yeah.
King book is
I
that?
can't remember.
Okay,
It was
he's
very
done so
interesting,
many.
though.
Right?
He's a million lamp monster.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. So, meanwhile, we have, and this is what the cool thing is, we have Anne Hathaway. She's not in the saloon at this time. The saloon with like that tiny useless door that you can see above and see below.
Oh, the draft excluding door?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, there's not even a door here. Like, come on. That is just a really, really shitty door.
Well, I can understand the whole scene of face of a guy walking into the bar. Why didn't you see his shoes? Like, hey, it's like, you're wearing runners, you're not getting in here. No way, it's not happening.
But it keeps Anne Hathaway at home. Like, the odd things happening, she can be at home and she has her own kind of story as it's happened, you know? But meanwhile, we're, like, that's juxtaposed to, like, the community, the bigger things, like the sheriff actually inciting people. But the audience are watching this and they know something's happened to the sheriff. Nobody else does. See, we're also getting, like, progression of the story. We're also getting these horror elements. And we're adding something new, like, his inciting incidents thing, like The Thing, which is really good idea. I think it really works. I think the saloon is a great place to start that. And the poker game would be really cool. So maybe that is like a thing where you got this kind, silly kind of sheriff. Maybe he's kind of a loser type. And he incites this. And then maybe he just tells people like to duel or whatever, like sort it out in the street.
Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi? Yeah, totally. That's a great idea. I like that. So yeah, so maybe his thing is, Steve Buscemi's thing is like, he's the law. And then his law is basically like kill each other, see who survives, you know? So people actually kind of listen to him because he's the law, and they're like, well, it was just a poker game, Steve, you know? Like, it's all right. And he's like, if you don't kill them, I'm killing you both. And because it's a podcast, I can't see my 2 fingers in the air.
Yeah.
He's not flicking us the bird either. He is doing guns.
So you can kind of have like him in this way, like coerce a murder, which is like quite a shocking thing considering all the cowboys in Manly Men are out of town, and you're like, oh my god, like the other two guys in town just shot each other, you know?
What if he gets he makes him have what do you call it, like the duel, you know, the stand on either end of the village, and
walk 10 paces, turn around, and I'll
makes
shoot
him
right
do
away.
that. So either you do that or else I kill both of you.
Yeah. And it's good because then you don't have his gun on both of them going, you gotta do it. It's a poker game, Steve.
Yeah.
That's
This is a couple of aces.
So I think they probably both kill each other.
I like the idea of one of them surviving because he actually has that guilt then.
Or
and
what
that
if-
guilt rubbing off on other people.
Or what if he survives, but like he was still shot, and like he was like maybe shot in the brain, and he has something very odd about him, like, you know, his whole left side of his body doesn't work, so he becomes like this kind of weird, important guy who always has like a little bit of kind of creepy information, but can't coherently structure a sentence,
Okay. I like him getting shot. Maybe the brain is a bit much.
or like spine or something.
Yeah, the spine, I think.
Yeah, keep him
then
immobile.
basically, if the brain, you're gonna have like this giant wound occurring. Because the time frame of this entire thing, I don't see it being like more than a day or two. You know?
Oh yeah, it's like it's a week maximum, but the shorter the time frame, the better.
Yeah.
There's less plot holes in it then.
As you see in like, things like Paranormal Activity, when they were like day 25, you're like, just move already, you know?
Yeah.
With horror, like keep the time frame small so their decisions have to really mean something.
And ramp it up. I do think it should be whatever length of time it takes for them to get the cattle over to wherever they need to be and then come back.
Yeah.
And then like when they come back is like that bit where they see everything at the end.
Absolutely.
So whatever length that is. But I mean the ramp up, you know, like you can kind of cover the slow ramp up where things happen kind of like gradually at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, have the real action just be over a week.
That's true. So then I think after that murder, basically because it was a murder out of like coercion, you know?
Yeah.
I think then that happens, and then you can have a thing where basically we want to get Anne Hathaway into that story, right? Because she's at home finding weird things happening. I think gossip follows, and somebody tells her about this, and she could be a friend of Steve Buscemi's, you know? So she just goes to the station just to see what's going on, like what happened. And that puts them in the same room then, and she can actually see this guy who she knows probably better than everybody, could be her cousin or whatever, like it could be related. And then she sees right there, something's not right, you know?
What if she's a religious person? She's very religious, and it's like a pastor that was killed. So it was like one of the priests in the town. He was the one that was killed. So it was like, so she runs out. It's like, what's going on? So she has a kind of a link to the spiritual side of things. So maybe that could be her way of figuring things out a little bit quicker than anyone else. I don't know, maybe staying a step ahead. Yeah. Actually, already thinks on those lines as well.
Well, if it's a pastor, then I'd say he didn't cheat in poker. I'd say that Steve planted like the cards on him. That'd even be even better because no one cheated. So he plants cards on a priest, going, "You know what I hate more than a cheat? A cheating priest."
I definitely have this like you know, The Conjuring, where there's a spiritual message to films. Really, I think especially horrors, where I really like my horrors to be scary and tense. And then when they have like a message where God will save all, that really upsets me. As a person that watches horrors. So I would just like like if he's like a good person or someone that you know who's a good person, but I would like automatically have that like twinkling in my head where I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I'm not a religious person at all, but I watched Annabelle. Do you see Annabelle?
No.
It's like they have at the end of it, it's like the priest is at the door, like knocking on the door, and he's actually possessed. You don't realize it, but he's actually possessed. It's like, ooh, so nobody's safe. Like he's supposed to be the man of God, and he's not safe. It's like, oh, that is unnerving.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Anna Hathaway then in the visiting the police station. It's not a station, but it's like a sheriff's bar. Yeah, the sheriff bar, you know. And basically we're at the point now where she goes and talks to him, going, "Are you okay?" She goes there for like consoling, going, "What happened?" Like, and this guy just turns around and just stares at her in that way that like it's kind of like, I don't know who you are, but it's kind of, I'm pretending to know who you are, that kind of style, you know. And she picks up on that, so I think that's really cool to have that element, because she now knows something's not right. Like, shit has been happening at my house. I come to town, this guy is acting unusual, and that's where you end up being. Normally, you'd have her tell people, and then they don't believe her, which I guess is plausible, but is there something we can do around that to change that thing up? Because it's so cliche.
I definitely think so, because I think we talked about all the different women that are in there, and I kind of think, like, she's this person who's been isolated, abusive husband, maybe she has a small kid or something like that she's trying to protect, so she's kind of like very much so, maybe Steve Buscemi is her only kind of link to the outside community. So like people like the horrors or the outsiders, she would never ever naturally have a way to associate with them. So maybe she needs to go to them to try and convince them that this is happening, and they're like, "You damn Christian, judgmental, aloof woman," you know, like not understanding her full scenario or anything like that, but they felt judged by her. Like there's that thing where they kind of like don't trust each other, they are naturally kind of like a little bit negative towards each other, but they have to like, she tells them something, they dismiss it, and then they go find it in their own lives, or like something happens around them that convinces them of this.
Yeah, like
that. She plants a seed with them or something like that.
Yeah, she's like, things aren't right, and they're like, "You're always saying this. Like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? Let the people have some fun. You know, the guys are out. Like, why don't you loosen up a bit? You know?" And by even saying that, there might be some kind of thing that's going to happen. Like, I don't know what it is, but with these kind of things, it could be if all of the guys are leaving town, maybe there's like a little congregation of the community meeting up at a certain point, you know? They're like, "Let's meet up here, like all the guys are out of town, let's have some fun, let's loosen up." Like there's no guys, like basically, like it only happens once a year or something like that. So, but also what we're doing is we're putting a location, a setup, even if it's a third act as well. I don't know if that's our third act yet, but we're actually putting like a little congregation together in the future that people are preparing for.
I just had a thought, just throwing it on the wall. Okay, what if the homecoming, Steve Buscemi's job is to poison all the women against the men who are coming back? So what he is doing is he is kind of like setting them all up so they hate their husbands, or like their partners, or their pimp, or their cousins or they're like whoever it is that is coming back to them, and we have set up all the relationships in the beginning,
Yeah.
A, B, C, or D, and these are who they're related to, and they're really close to them, and his job is to poison them by like feeding them information, by changing things up, by like changing the way reality is, so that when the men come home, there's like a homecoming party, everyone's like, oh yay, we baked you cakes, let's have some beers and dance around a bonfire or whatever they do.
Yeah.
But his job is to have the women kill the men.
I like that.
I'm down with that. Is,
and then it's
that's
playing with your free will element too. That it's through coercion, but isn't the devil and the demon usually uses coercion to get somebody to do something against their will or to think that it is their free will. So yeah, I really like that. That's really good. So we have then Anne Hathaway walking out, talks to these maybe the whore and the outsider, and individually I'd say, because you want that kind of there's nowhere else to turn to element, you know?
Yeah.
Like we were saying that in the Face Off episode when we had Ben Affleck with the face switch, and like, well, he tells somebody. It's like, well, you want to see that he tried. Yeah. So you'd go through a couple of variations of that. So it'd be her standing there staring at the station, and the outsider walks by and she's like, I think something's wrong, you know, like, and just kind of says it, and they kind of go, I don't think so. And then later on they're talking to someone, do you see something unusual, or do you think something's weird? So you can see her attempting to like connect with people and find out like this, and then you can follow those other characters later on as something bad happens to at least one of them, like even if they get turned as well or whatever.
Or anybody who figures out what happens, like something, like maybe Steve Buscemi's character has a way of manipulating negative things to hurt people. So maybe this woman has been so isolated and is generally such a like relatively positive person. With I do like people having a couple of flaws. I hate the idea of like the kind of perfect virgin, but maybe she just genuinely doesn't have that thing in her that she really wants to hurt people, but like she obviously has issues. But people that kind of like actively go out and hurt other people, he kind of like can turn that back on them, so he can hurt those people. So anybody who figures out what is happening or like maybe starts to agree with her, he can kind of turn that back on them, but he's not, for some reason or like any reason at all, he can't really turn that back on her. Or maybe it is the body that he's chosen because that person is so close to her, maybe he can't. I kind of like the idea that the original character that Steve Buscemi was, like this kind of like hapless weirdo, maybe he loved her. Right. And like that's why that weird character can't hurt her.
That's true. That's nice. But also it's part of her character. I mean, the character's character. That, you know, say that idea that some people can't be hypnotized. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, she just doesn't feel these effects. Like, she knows something bad's going down, but she seems to be the only one who actually can sense it, you know? So I think we're looking at like another incident, another thing that really pushes it. And we've introduced the brothel, and I don't know, I'm thinking that it could be something nasty happening upstairs, you know? Like something like horrific. We had a shootout, which seems pretty standard here, but maybe there's like a really bloody scene to happen in one of the rooms upstairs, you know? A room where nobody else was there, but what happened is certainly unusual.
Well, it should be one of the whores' rooms because there's no men in town to use them. So I was like, "What? Who was up here?" It's like it's already a conspiracy then when it happens.
Yeah. So who was up there? And we're not going to go backwards, but you can set up the victim being somebody who maybe they were gossiping about for like being untrustworthy, or like no one kind of liked her. And then I don't know. In my mind, we're talking horror, so we're allowed to be sick, right? I'm thinking like blood everywhere, like, you know, like just painted walls, you know, like just. Like, they walk in the room going like, Samantha, are you, oh my God, you know?
Jack the Ripper stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But, as you say, there's no guys in town, there was really no work happening, so who did that? And that really is kind of also setting up, like, people turning on each other, and they're really pushing it. But
it's a conspiracy now, and there's all these bad vibes and all the negativity is coming into it now.
And then you have Anne Hathaway then saying, something is happening, but now they're too focused on each other rather than thinking about like superhuman or like super elements.
Supernatural.
Supernatural, yeah.
I think she needs to get like maybe 2 sidekicks. I think maybe she kind of needs people to get on her side, so she's not by herself. She might have like a team of people that like eventually someone who's very unlikely she convinces.
Okay.
I'm thinking a horse and a coyote.
Love it.
I'm thinking like the tropes of these things. I remember in like maybe a bartender, for example.
Yeah.
Now we can do this or not, but I watched. You said Deadwood, and I remember they had those Chinese guys in it, and there was such a good like thing in that. Like their English was broken, and it was just such a good character to have in the West because they're the ultimate outsider in that environment. So if that's who sides with her, she's like, oh great, like they believe me over you anyway.
Can we have an Indian woman?
Oh, sorry, yeah, we have to introduce the Indian.
Yeah, so maybe she's friends with a woman of a tribe.
So cool.
So she does like, maybe the Indian lady brings her like vegetables or something, and they have like a little barter thing going on with whatever Anne Hathaway, whatever her role is in the town,
No, I think even more than that, maybe that's how they know each other. But I think that you do have this character has to come by and kind of exposition it up a bit and be like, what happened out there? Like something happened, like something moved, something changed. It might even be a shift between, instead of somebody burying something, somebody like plowed over it looking for gold,
Yeah.
And it's like something changed up there, what happened? And they went to Anne Hathaway, and so they're in cahoots. So yeah, we totally forgot about her. So yeah, that's the partner, but also fulfills it's another outsider. Like so instead of the Chinese character like Deadwood, you have the Indian, which is basically the Western's mortal enemy. Who is this person? They're like, you think, is it a guy or is it a girl?
Oh, it's a girl, I think.
Think it's a girl?
Yeah, well, we're keeping the full female cast as much as possible. I think like it's.
What do you think,
more
Gemma?
powerful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a woman would be fun.
That's
I think
fine.
they're French. They have like whatever routine they have where they meet up every week to do their thing. Is like they sit down, have a cup of coffee, and maybe
No, they wouldn't have got like. I don't think they're friends. They nod at each other like They really have a divide between the communities. Like I'd say that there's respect for each other.
See, this is why I think that maybe Anne Hathaway is probably an outsider though as well. That like she doesn't conform to the society of the village, as it is. Like she's already a bit out there.
But we're talking about somebody who's married and the husband would not want her seen with an engine, But I can see that we have that element that they're okay with each other. But I don't see them like meeting up and chatting. It's kind of like that, pass each other by and acknowledge each other's existence. That's enough for me, I think.
I think a backstory could be where if Anne Hathaway does have a kid, I don't know if we decided that, but if
15 kids.
1,000 kids.
That all? Is she Irish?
But she maybe that Indian woman used some of the natural knowledge of the land and the herb to help if her child was sick or something like that. So she would always have that thing where it's like a very human response to save a child, and then it's fine. So they do have that kind of agreement between them, or
I like
understanding.
that. Yeah, it's the understanding. So I think that we have to like name this Native American woman, because I think if we keep talking about the Native American woman, it's actually going to be a bit cumbersome, right?
Shorten it to the native woman.
The native's not bad, actually. Yeah.
I like that.
They call that's what they're called, I think.
Yeah, but even the community wouldn't know who that person is, and they wouldn't even bother finding out. So
there's been a mystery to her as well, I suppose, when you say the native is coming. The native's here to help us. Okay,
so now the native. So from now on, we talk about this character as she's referred to as the native. So I like your idea that you have where she helped the kid out, so they have this understanding amongst each other. So you have this person show up, being like, something happened up there at this site, and that no one knew it was a burial site until she actually said it. She's like, okay, it's a burial site, something happened. The only person she's talking to is the person who would talk to her, Anna Hathaway. So Anne Hathaway is agreeing on, okay, so something odd is happening here. So we need to take you, who knows what you're talking about, into town. So now you have outsider Anne Hathaway with the native as well, who's like more of an outsider going, this is not irrefutable evidence that something bad happened.
Yeah, no, that's actually what I was going to say, is that she is... Oh, shit, I have to lose my train of thought. That maybe the native is like, do you feel something's wrong here? Like, there's something that doesn't feel right here. She's trying to pull it out of Anne Hathaway instead of telling her, because she's not going to tell her the tribe's secrets or whatever, that all the native secrets, and that Anne Hathaway's like, oh yeah, actually there is something really strange, and she blurts out everything that's happened. Yeah. And that's when the native's like, okay, we need to get this. You have no idea what you're out there. You
need to get out of town, right?
You're at the something of something, like seriously, like you can't deal with this. This is
I like
way
that.
Beyond it.
Because then, if the element then is to get people out of town, but the people don't want to get out of town because they're like, well, our husbands won't know where we're at.
Yeah.
Like we can't leave.
Bastard
They'll text us.
Who we're gonna attack.
Yeah, and answer machines weren't around back then, Steve, so don't even look at that up. So yeah, so I like that element then, like get out, like now you have motivation for the two, like the Anne Hathaway and the native. They're like get the community out of town, and they're gonna fight that.
3 is the magic number, and I think if we have someone who's incredibly kind of like a very gentle style woman, who's but also I think very common sense, like full of common sense, then we have somebody who is like salt of the earth, who's aware of the, like, you know, who's very close to the earth, who's very kind of aware of the way things work. I think like also to have something else represented would be nice. And 3's magic number, I wonder if we should have one of the prostitutes become in on this and understand this, because, you know, maybe she's good at doing this, because it's a contrast to the 2 energies that we had that are very different.
Yeah. Maybe she's a friend of the girl who died. Like maybe she's like,
the one who's
ripped apart. It's
like
something is not right. Okay, I believe you now. What is it that you know?
And maybe she's Steve Buscemi's regular, and she's like, no.
Yeah, forget this. Yeah. I don't want that creep. And if that is regular, she can come to them with information going, yeah, that was so weird what happened in that spot, but I have to tell you, that customer I have, Steve Buscemi, has been acting really weird, like yesterday. Like he came by, he didn't do his regular thing. Like it was like I didn't know who he was, because if he's a regular, they have like this relationship of sorts. They know kind of what each other like, you know. And
I love that though as well. Like, we have 3 people now, three characters that at some point we're going to have to get them on, not on the run necessarily, but hiding from everybody else, or, you know, trying to get away from the mob, basically. You know, there's going to be a...
Well, it's a good idea. So basically now we're definitely pushing forward. So we're saying that Steve Buscemi is going to succeed in actually convincing the community to kill, is it?
Yeah.
Well,
So the whole group are going to be like frenzied up, and they're going to kill the husbands, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of in cahoots now, and we might just jump forward a bit, because I feel like we're lagging a bit. So we jump forward. So he's basically in a series of moments and scenes. He's kind of played them against each other and convinced them to like frenzy them up, you know.
Yeah.
Even like just bringing them individually and getting them on his side, you know. And we don't even see that, because in horror, the less you see, the better, you know? You can just see them changing little by little as our 3 heroes are walking by. But they're the 3 people who won't change. So they're the 3 people that the community will kill, because that's going to ruin his plan. They won't change. They're all outsiders anyway. So that whole community now is going to try to kill these 3 girls. What do you guys think?
Definitely. And what if then if the his whole reason to get the rest of the village to turn on Anna Hathaway is that she's hanging out with a stranger now. She's hanging out with a native. We don't know anything about her. Maybe she was the one who killed the... like this is not right, you know. Who is this person that just turns up and then all of a sudden someone dies, even though it didn't work out that way?
Yeah.
But he makes it look that, you know, in that sense.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely what he is. And I'd say that's probably what he did to the prostitute who was horrifically murdered earlier, where he had put that thought in someone else's head about like jealousy and insight. So then like that's why she's dying, but that's what he's trying to do to these 3 girls. And they are like fighting against it. They're going to be using everything they have. I would like ultimately like to think that like a certain amount of people would, like, as my faith in human nature is, like a certain amount of people would push back from it, but it is that kind of like mob, pitchforks, fire, torches thing. Like people would fight against it and they'd be like, yeah, you did sleep with my husband. And they'd be like, what? Where did you even get that idea from? Or you are like, you think you're better than me, or like, you know, all these kind of like all these
your apple pie isn't the best in town.
Yeah. Or like, you know, like something kind of murderous, like that they're extremely jealous or petty. And then ultimately he's trying to ramp everybody up so when the man comes home that they all murder them.
They're set to go. Because even like I can just imagine like the three leads, or 3 heroes standing in like the middle of that little like dusty town, you know, and around the corner you just see the community just turning around like fire in their hands and stuff, you know, and like they're all together and they're all aiming for 3 people. And you're like, oh my god! Like then you have this really amazing scene where you're like they can't kill these people. They can't like fight back and kill because they're innocents, but they've been basically brainwashed.
That's it.
Yeah.
The native tells them, like, no, obviously they're being brainwashed. This is what this.
Yeah.
She at this point she would have brought out the book or the parchment or whatever with the this is what this demon is. This is This is Loki. He's mischievous and
I'd
whatever.
say part of the solution is you have to take out his representatives, Steve Buscemi, but that does not take out the demon. You know, so like because if you take out Steve Buscemi, you're like it's just a guy.
Yeah, he's just a vessel for the demon.
But they have to do something. They have to like I don't know, like do something. Oh, this is very moralistic, but like do something that ultimately forgives something or like overcomes some kind of evil, like some kind of actual act, like something physical that they can do that like pacifies it or something like that. Maybe they work with the natives or that seems very condescending though. But I have a really dark twist.
Okay.
But I'm going to save it till the very end.
Okay.
So.
Are you sure? Because we normally just blurt out the endings because we want to know where we're going anyway.
No, I'm going to save it till the very end.
Okay.
It's really, really dark. It might not work, but we'll see. We'll see where we go, and then I'll see if this works.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
So I like the idea that you have this whole scene where they have to like hide in this town and they jump from like little place to place because everyone's looking for them, and they can even encounter people and like knock them out. But they can't kill them because essentially that person doesn't know what they're doing, you know?
Yeah. You ever see 30 Days a Night? I didn't really like that movie as such, but it was like the one with the vampires in Alaska and the 30 Days of Night, obviously. But at like points where they actually all just like, all the villagers, they go and they hide in a certain place, you know, and they hold refuge there. That's their thing, you know, the way.
Okay.
So maybe we have like Anne Hathaway's character in The Native and the horror. They're hiding out now in a place and they're trying to make a plan up, or while people are actually looking for them. Like there's like, did they skip town? Where are they gone? Like
ultimately they have to convince those people not to do what they're planning on doing, or enough of them, or like do something.
Do you think it's like convincing people, or is it taking out Buscemi?
Maybe that's the thing, where the two women are so close to Buscemi. Like you have his like cousin Anne Hathaway, and then you have his like essentially probably his partner for the past few years, but like, do you know, like some.
She's like, that's my moneymaker here. like no one else sleeps with me but Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. Well, or someone that she's been incredibly close to for a long time, and who has been like an incredibly kind person to her. If he was that hapless loser, he would have like showered her with money and probably did love her.
That's true. That's a good point, actually. And she takes it because she's like, well, if someone wants to treat me well, I'll take that. So okay. So you have these two out of three of them like can't go ahead with it, you know. Yeah. Well, we also have that other person that could go ahead with it because the native has no clue who this guy is, but also knows that this is the key. Like this is the answer to freeing the people, not breaking the demon, but just breaking that spell over the people. You know, I'm right with this, right?
Yeah, I think that maybe our goal has to be that they devise their goal. The goal that they devise, is that they think if they can out Buscemi and show the village that he's actually being possessed, that the spell on them will be locked. You know, their will come back, and it's like, okay, there is something wrong going on, because they haven't been convinced of that. They just think they're going through the motions. Mm-hmm. So maybe their idea is like, hey, we have to get Buscemi out in the open. We have to get this demon out of him. We can prove to the people that there's a demon in him. Then maybe they'll turn around and they'll help us instead of being under their spell.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So instead of just killing him or knocking him out or whatever, it's like get the demon out of him. That means the community then breaks the spell, but now they have this fucking demon in town that they're afraid of. I like that, because then I get my element of you actually have a demon in town.
Yeah.
Or they try and get the demon out of him. They can't. And I feel like the prostitute has to kill him. And she's like, I'm so sorry, and like that kills her because obviously she's known him for years and she felt so sorry for him for years. But then the demon gets out anyway, so she does it all for nothing.
But I like that. So do you have like these horror films? They have those kind of sacrifice moments, like sacrifice of your loved one, not of yourself.
And he's the villain. He's not the demon's the villain, but he is basically the villain of our story. So he has to go.
And he's a hapless idiot too. So come on. So he goes, and that could be like, well, might be to talk about this. Like, so we have this point where like maybe he's enclosed in this shed building saloon, maybe in his police area, like in his sheriff's. How do you call it?
I don't know.
It's a station. Let's call it station. It seems like such a big word for the Wild West, you know. So he's in his station, which is a really good place for his hideaway to be, because that's where the weapons are, that's where the cages are, and so he can even like lock himself in a cage, going like, I now have to wait this out. What a great way for like the sheriff or deputy, whatever he is, to like put himself in a cage in order to fulfill this mission. So they have to go get the key from one of these people, and then they have to like find a way into that station and basically try to do an exorcism of sorts, because they're pretty cool in horror, right? To be honest, I've never gotten tired of exorcisms and stuff, They're pretty good, and they're really horrific, and you see him twitching and stuff. But I do like your idea that it doesn't go well. Maybe the community, the girls, show up and they start banging on the windows, breaking the windows, and now everybody's like locked themselves into the prison cell. They're like, oh my god, we have to get out of here. And eventually they can't get this dude, so what, we kill him?
What I was going to suggest is maybe he shows himself as a demon.
Okay.
And everybody sees that he's a demon, but they can't exorcise him. He becomes more and more powerful, so they do have to kill him. But that isn't enough, and everything starts to rise. And like some of the people are on board with these women, and then some of the people are like, what the hell are you doing? And people are like fighting and then like freaking out, and like all the energy is rising, and like this thing with all this negative energy that's there between the two groups is just rising and rising and rising and rising. And then I don't know what happens.
Do you mean rising as in like the buildings are floating off the ground, is it?
Or
like buildings shaking.
Like everything's shaking. I shouldn't have done that. Everything's shaking, like there's noise, everyone's like rattling, everyone's fighting, like
rumbling, and everything's.
This is exactly what I wanted. Like, okay, well maybe they were specifically aiming for this, but this horrific kind of like fusing and anger is what they wanted. But then it brings it up to rise.
Okay.
And the demon is just about to come, and again, it doesn't matter now that Steve Buscemi is dead, because his ultimate goal was to have the demon rise, and maybe the act of that woman who was close to him killing him is like that straw that broke the devil's back or something like that.
Right.
That
it could be the innocent killing somebody is the one thing that releases it or whatever. Like that kind of stuff you put in draft 2, that's fine. But like that alone seems horrible enough. Like you can convince weak people to do this, but the strong-willed, that's the key. Like, strong-willed have to commit murder or have to kill somebody. Take a life. Take a soul. For like of free will in order to release this demon, and the demon's there to punish everybody for like fucking up his pad. So now Buscemi's dead, demon's out, it's rising up, it's taking over. People, the people now, the spell is broken, isn't it? Like people are
terrified.
Yeah, so no one's like really possessed now. But they could be like, terrified, as you say. Like they're just freaking out. I think you have this huge scene where like the entire place, they run out of the station, and you can just see this whole scene where like everyone's running around. The entire place is shaking and rumbling. And do we see this demon in physical form now, or is he kind of like ethereal? Is he kind of like drifting and moving between people? Maybe he's like jumping between people, or do we want to do that?
I think his power is bigger now because Buscemi's dead. That was him as being a very powerful person. I think if he was an individual, it wouldn't have the same punch. I think like a giant being is more like the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, and it's a bit like camp, but I think like maybe you just get like the shaking ground, like things coming up, like maybe like a force or like a force of energy or something.
The ground actually like pushing, but like kind of creating a mountain of some sort. Like you see, like the earth is unearthed,
like the dead horizon type of
yes, and like maybe it's inhabiting something, but like not something physical.
So what if he's like an 8-foot shadow of sorts? That kind of like you can't really see him. But there is something there that we can focus our eyes on, but we don't really know what he is. You do it through the like shadows and whatnot. You can kind of see maybe an outline of his eyes, or But he's this big presence, a deep groan in our voice, or whatever.
I agree. I think we're all in agreement that we never see this creature because that kills any kind of horror.
In the dark, far away is the best way to go for everything.
So we have everybody racing around. Anne Hathaway just standing in the middle of the ground, like holding her own. Going like, we cannot leave, like everyone's fleeing, everyone's panicking, and she's like, what can we do? She turns to the native, and I think therein lies the solution right there. The native and her figure out something to actually defeat this monstrosity.
How about, okay, Buscemi had been rallying all these women against murdering these men, like against, like he'd convinced them of someone, and the woman who had been the most hurt, the most upset by everything, and you really kind of like felt for her, and this guy obviously was a monster. She goes out and she, like when the men come back and like it is that thing where he's now ready to kill the men, where she's just like, no, and she just stands up and she's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself, this is not right. And that is that act where, you know, like that starts the movement towards like, okay, well, maybe this isn't, like maybe this thing loses the force, like where people are like, what is happening? And then they're like, okay, well, if you have that kind of strength within you, how can this kind of like incredible negative thing again, like this, some act of selflessness, and it is that really
you're trying to like a balance. You're trying to like, if something's so bad, then by just hitting good up and restoring everything to balance.
But I have a thing, like I know it's really cheesy, but I have a thing that might fix it at the end. That's my thing.
No worries, yeah.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
No, that's the bit at the end.
Oh, okay.
So when we decide how it ends and if this is the okay thing, like if it's like that extreme act of selflessness.
Okay, well, I mean, what we're talking about then, if she's sacrificing herself, is either that she goes into the pit, like a hole emerges and she decides to like go into it, is that she kills herself. Like we're talking like these are like variations of self-sacrifice.
So what if like her will is so strong, and the native says like someone's will is so strong you can't actually take hold of him, but he can still possess you. You know, so her idea is now I need to get him to possess me. So she gets
let them in.
So that's the demon sets it, but her will is so strong she's able to fight it. Not very well, but she's able to control it better than anyone else. That's her.
Okay. And maybe that's the thing. Like maybe it's like, well, this thing's gonna be released. So maybe if I encapsulate it into myself, I will and kill myself. Maybe that'll be the end of it. Like maybe I can just like I can stop everything now if I get it to possess me.
Yeah.
And that's her task then. And again, science will find out a way that like she convinces this being or fools the being into like taking over her body. And then she's like, kill me now or whatever, like just let's end it.
And that has to be the person that was the most corrupted. So whoever was the most corrupted out of the whole group is the person that decides that. So that has the most power. Because people that were like good the whole time, it's no surprise that they're good at the end. Okay. Whoever it is like that, they were like, what do I have to do? And it's that huge leap of like a change of character or something like that. That is that force.
Okay. Yeah. So then they have so again, this is where it would take ages trying to figure out how the demon gets into the body. But let's say the demon gets into the body. So now, like, they've taken this entire force that's taken over the town and just taken it and just kind of put it into them. Like, say, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, the orb thing where it takes all these people to contain this force. It is like this one person has the force contained inside them. This demon is inside them. They're, like, breaking apart. Something has to happen now. Something
it's like
has
the Exorcist as well. Isn't it like that happened in the Exorcist where the apprentice priest or whatever he was to the Exorcist, he was the one who took the demon into his body, and threw himself out the window.
So what I was saying is happy, town is saved, men come back, all men are fine. Anne Hathaway's husband comes home, there's like a welcoming, everyone is so thrilled, so grateful, every single thing, every single slight has completely been forgiven. Mm-hmm. But Anne Hathaway has found out from Steve Buscemi earlier in the film that her husband had been molesting their daughter, and she shoots him in the face. Oh. And that's the end.
That's what you've been holding on to this whole time?
Yeah.
You need to talk to people about that. That'll lead you outside.
Because I was like, oh, it's like a good film. I was like, it's like a really happy ending. And I was like, you need something horrific to happen at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe like so we can in another draft we put that stuff and we sprinkle that throughout. So like not like obvious, but we put that in there. But I don't think we've quite caught that ending.
No, we haven't. We haven't got there just yet.
Yeah.
We need to. We need to send. We need to dispose of the demon. We need to put him into the Ghostbusters.
We have the demon in the body now, and we have to get the demon like expunged, like extinguished. You know. But how will we do that? Like, we can make this shit up as anything, you know?
I do think the native people, if you got them involved somehow, and that is like people kind of like, you know, swallowing their pride hugely.
Yes, and saving the white people or whatever.
Yeah.
If we're going to end with Anne Hathaway shooting her husband in the face, and she needs to be the one that takes the demon in.
Yeah.
So she's the one that. So whatever happens now, we think that she's cured.
Yeah.
But it turns out
Totally.
she's
No. I wasn't even suggesting that was a demon. I was just saying, like, she had seen, like, as a human being, as a normal human being, she has seen so much shit, and she's so pissed off with people, and she's dealt with so much that she's just like, fuck that guy. I'm sick of this. She was
No, but I do like the idea that it even be hinted at that it's a demon, but in the end, it's like, no, it's not. You know, like it was like,
it's that conversation you have between your seat and the door out of the cinema. Was she still possessed, or what happened there?
But you have that little hint to the side that no, she's not possessed. You know, so we have to get like again. This could all honestly just go for hours now, but we'll just say something to say it. Like we've got this. She's taken the demon inside her, and you've said something about a bunch of natives showing up. I like that. There's something there about like.
As long as it's women, because I don't want men turned up now to save the day. You know, it just ruins everything that we're after being, everything we're after being talking about now.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, it has to still be female oriented.
The elders, so they can be both.
Yeah,
the elders, the town elders.
So maybe what we actually have to do is go back to the very start and say, what was it that was broke to release the demon? You know, it needs to be that relic, or
it's going to be replaced, basically, right?
They need to find a way of, like, say if it's a vase that was broke, they need to make a new vase, and they need to.
That's some
bitchy
ass demon. Be like, broke my face. I love that. That was bone china,
or something that contained it, and
maybe Russian dolls.
But it could be a real, like, metaphorical statement where if in the Indian or like the native culture they were like, okay, well, it's something incredibly spiritual and close to us, like, you know, like the memories of our grandfathers. But then in, like, you know, like white culture, and it's like, it's just gold, and they have to take that thing that has that power, so they're like, okay, well, if you give us this gold, this will stop it. And
so that's like a tax to the demon, basically.
I have an idea, actually. We have this guy basically taking gold. Like, we say, like, he went up, took gold, but, like, they don't just take gold specifically. Maybe he just grabbed, like, a bunch of dirt with gold in it, but that was also, like, ashes and remains of bodies. And so he left town, so that's in the place. So they actually have to give this urn of sorts back to the community, going, look, we didn't know that was the thing that set this entire thing off. That's the remains of the demon that wants it
so
back.
What we thought at the start was that he's after disturbing something, like burying his gold there, was actually no. This was already set in motion when he took the gold. This is already taken. This happened like the day before. It's not actually the consequence of him digging up something.
And he's like, is it because I pissed on the grave? No, it's not because you pissed on the grave.
I'm totally lost here, boss.
Or you could have him eating some bad possum and, like, being like, whoa, my guts are growling.
He put a might of fight now, isn't he?
I'm shitting hot snakes here.
Totally. Okay. See, that fulfills that for me. I think that is excellent. We have the molestation murder at the end.
Love it.
Not
a film with molestation or murder.
Out of the blue, That's going to be your ending for everything.
Pretty much it.
Okay,
like,
so
thank God you didn't do the Santa Begins episode.
or I was involved with the writing of Frozen.
Sweet. So I think that we close the chapter on this more.
What are we going to call this? Do we have a name for it?
I don't know, like, Jesus, what would you call it? Like, I love Deadwood, like, as a show. They have that name, obviously, but it's the name of the place, and it just kind of encapsulates everything about it. Like,
that's pretty cool,
sweet.
Prosperity or something.
Yeah, it has the riches involved in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, the dude captured some gold and didn't understand the ramifications of his action, right?
Yeah.
What about Prosperity Falls or something along those lines?
Fortune
Falls.
Fortune Falls, yeah.
There we
go. Boom. Like it.
Sweet.
Okay, Fortune Falls. Okay, so I think that wraps it up then. No more to be said about it.
Yep.
All I have to ask now is, Gemma, would you watch that film?
I would definitely watch it.
Yeah? That'd be right up your alley, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, what do you think, Steve?
Yeah, with the lights on.
Well, let's find out if they would watch it, you know?
Yeah, exactly, guys. Tweet us.
Is it a hit or is it a dud? Let us know at Storybreakers on Twitter.
We also have podcast at storybreakers.ie.
Nice, we have that now?
We're going to have a website soon.
Boom!
Well done.
Good job, Steve.
And
we're on Facebook and
Instagram,
well,
YouTube. We're everywhere. Just Storybreakers is simple. Let's put that in.
Yeah. So, how do you like the show? Like, let us know. Like, who would you cast in the lead? Do you like how the story went? Like, how would you do it differently? Like, we want to know.
As well, we're either going horror route with this all-female cast. Western.
Yeah.
What subgenre would you pick for an all female Western?
Oh, nice. Good question.
That could be.
I might tweet you that later.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably tweet it myself.
Hit Gemma up as well. What's your Twitter account?
I'm at Crayfish, Creagh, because that's my surname spelling. I'm
I
a nerd.
like
It was
that.
a pun of my name.
Play on words.
Cray
That's awesome.
_ fish.
Okay, and we have to thank Filmbase, right?
Of course,
for our
for-
pod later.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
giving us the cave.
All right, so I think that's about it. That wraps it up, right?
Yep.
That's about it. So, on behalf of Stephen, I will say goodbye.
And on behalf of Chris, I will say goodbye. Oh, I don't want to speak for Gemma. I think she's old enough to speak for herself.
Goodbye.
Have a good night, folks.
Good night.
Night.